Good.
You good?
Talk.
Okay, great. All right, we are live now, everyone. And so, all right, we're live. There will be some adjustments made to the lighting for me. But I do just want to say good evening to everyone. And the numbers are going up. We do know that. But we are going to try our best to stay safe. We know the holidays is coming up. And I just want everyone to remember that their families are their biggest concern. And so far, we've been very fortunate in that everyone is still well, and we're going to continue to work. So the cold has finally set in, but I understand on Friday we're going to be up in the 50s again. So that's wonderful. All right.
Yes.
So now I'm ready to get started, and I'm going to start by taking attendance. I will start with the members of the Audit and Finance Committee, and I just want to calling the meeting to order right now. Today is November the 7th, November the 17th, and it is 5:34. All right. Mr. Bergdorf.
Present.
Mr. Clay.
Present.
Mr. Grimm.
He was here and then he's gone, so.
Yeah, I saw him too. Mr. Ray Joyce. Oh, there's Ray. I see Ray.
Present. I was unmuted. Sorry.
Thank you. Miss Lakakis.
Speaking.
Mr. Mayo.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
And Mr. Peter.
Here, Madam Chairwoman.
Okay. And I am present. And I'm just going to go back to Mr. Grimm.
He doesn't appear to be in here right now, but I'll let you know when he comes back.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Victor was in there 5 minutes ago, so.
Okay. What I will do is I'll start by recognizing our chair, Andrew Joyce. I know that he is present.
Present and accounted for with Colton Michael Joyce as well, Madam Chair.
I see him. Hi, Colton.
Yeah.
Hi.
And so that's Andrew. Let me see. I can't tell. Is Mr. Best in here? Mr. Brewski. Miss Chapman. Mr. Cleary.
Here.
Okay, I see you. Okay. Mr. Camiso. Miss Cunningham. Mr. Demolowitz. Mr. Drake. Mr. Efakoro. Mr. Ethier. Mr. Feeney. Mr. Fine.
Here.
I see you, yes. Mr. Kuhn. Mr. Langdon.
Here.
Oh, okay. Mr. Langdon. Miss Lockhart. Mr. Moriello.
I am here.
Okay. Miss McLaughlin.
Yes.
Miss McLean Lane.
Here.
I see you, Allison. Mr. Miller.
Present.
Okay. Mr. Purley. Miss Plotsky. Mr. Reedy.
Here.
Oh, okay. Mr. Reinhardt. Mr. Ricard. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Smith. Mr. Tunney. Mr. Ward.
Here.
Miss
Madam
Wade.
Chair,
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm back on.
Back.
Oh, okay.
This is Legislator Graham.
Yeah, we knew you were here.
It just my internet disappeared.
Okay. We have the 10 members of the Audit and Finance Committee present, as well as 9 additional members of the legislature, and also the chairman, Andrew Joyce. All right, we're going to move forward now, and we're going to begin our order of business. And the first thing that I am going to do is I want to recognize Mr. Morris. He is going to give us the budget highlights of 2021. And then we will move forward, and our budget analyst, Eric Ford, will give us some information on the tax levy and other issues. All right, thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I'm just letting Dave Riley in right now too. So thanks, everybody. I know that I had sent a letter yesterday on the chairman's, on this information from the chairman, but I'll go over it again. And, you know, so on behalf of Chairman Joyce, Majority Leader Feeney, Audit and Finance Chairwoman Willingham, these are the changes presented are essentially what came into us from members. A lot of these good ideas, proposals, items to look for. So that's really how we came about these. So let me start by going over that. One of the biggest changes we made, as you'll know through this spreadsheet, is an addition of 2 social workers to the Department of Mental Health. The purposes of this is to expand the mobile crisis unit. And we've been working with the Sheriff's Office, the Department of Mental Health, and the County Executive's Office on doing so. And the hope is in a few weeks to roll out a program, a pilot program for a different type of response to nonviolent offenses, items where we can essentially have a social worker and a paramedic respond to certain scenarios that previously might have been covered by a sheriff's deputy. So that's the big item here. There's the $170,000 accounts for 2 salaries as well as benefits there. So that's one of the big items that we've been working on here. Another one is it's kind of twofold. A lot of members have reached out requesting that we add some funding to the Board of Elections. There is, obviously we had the BOE task force who put together a bunch of good items. The fact that we have a new commissioner joining the Board of Elections, and there's it's really become a priority. So we are proposing to match the county executive's proposal for $200,000 into the contingent account for a total of $400,000, with $100,000 there earmarked for the Board of Elections. We, in our conversations with the incoming commissioner, I think she would like to get her feet underneath her and to really prioritize the first steps of some of the changes that need to be made down there. So that is, like I said, we're earmarking $100,000 out of that 200 into the contingent account for the Board of Elections. Another addition we have made is we have earmarked $100,000 for basically an extension of the CERT program, the COVID Economic Recovery Task Force. That $100,000 is to further our current efforts that we're working on to assist small businesses throughout Albany County. And that's obviously an item that's also on the agenda this week for committees. The final increase I'll talk about here is, as you'll notice, what used to be the community development line has now been renamed Community Development, Public Health and Safety. And that previously in last year was $2 $225,000. And we are looking to bump that up through reassigning money, et cetera, to $425,000. And we intend that to be programmatic spending in the era of COVID. So we envision working with government agencies, nonprofits, community groups on quality of life improvements. And those will, come in by case basis, and we will look to, really make those programmatic improvements that we've been discussing. That's really it from the increases. We have made some changes to the revenues. We expect the sales and use tax to come in 0.11% higher than had previously been forecasted by the county executive's office. We still believe, even though that's a minor increase, that we're still erring on the side of being conservative. We also expect, similarly, the mortgage recording tax to come in 7.5% higher with all of the refinancing going on right now due to the low rates, and 13% increase in the medical marijuana, tax. So that's, that combined with us finding savings within our own savings and reassigning money within our own budget, that's we come to where we're at. If you take it as a whole, we control the A1010 account and the A1990 account as a legislature. If you add those two items together, we're actually down 11%, or over $588,000 from what we adopted in the 2020 budget. So those are kind of the top line items. I'm happy to talk about offline. They're also lined out in the letter from Chairman Joyce yesterday. But I hope that provides some context to the items that we're working on. So with that, I will turn it back over to Wanda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morris. I just want everyone, if you have any questions, please hold your questions until we come to the department where you might have concerns about. All right. And right now I'm just going to go on and let Mr. Ford speak.
Okay, so
I can't hear anything.
okay, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Somebody else in the room has to mute themselves so you don't get feedback.
All right.
Yeah, there's an echo.
All right, we got three parties here. We're just trying to figure this out. Give me 2 seconds here. Okay, just gotta close those down a little bit.
Sounds good.
So with respect to the tax levy, the county executive proposed a tax levy of $97,532,487. This set of reductions, enhancements, as contained on the legislative budget report presented here tonight, does a net reduction of 0 to the tax levy, a net increase of 0. So it has net 0 impact effectively on the tax levy. So as the tax levy reads, the new tax levy will read exactly the same at $97,532,487. That information in terms of what the executive proposed can be found on page 44 of the executive budget, should you be interested. The proposed budget tax rate was 3.487 as proposed by the county executive, and these sets of transactions presented in this legislative budget report would have a net impact of 0 on that rate. So the new rate would read exactly the same at 3.487. That's the total impact of the proposed changes as presented here. I did want to just mention a technical thing with respect to the report, as I did get a couple of questions on it. The decrease column and increase column on the expenditure side of the report have an inverse relationship to the revenue side. So you will notice later on in the report that the columns will reverse, and the decrease column will become increase with respect to revenue, and the increase will become decrease with respect to revenue at the bottom of the report. It all reads budgetarily and accounting wise as to what the impact would be to the tax levy, such that a decrease in expenditure would have the same effect as an increase in revenue. And likewise on the increase in expenditure would have the same effect as a decrease in revenue. So just wanted to mention that for your hearing in terms of the structure of the legislative report. And that's all I have. I'm going to turn it now back over into the hands of the chairwoman.
All right. Thank you, Eric. I just want to remind everyone tonight we are here the Audit and Finance Committee is here to vote on the additions and deletions. And those that will be for passing, we'll be passing the budget for the public hearing. So these additions and deletions will go out for the public hearing. And the public hearing is November the 24th. So that's what we will be voting on tonight. All right. I'm also going to review the additions and deletions by department. And we are ready to begin that now. Okay. All right. Does everyone have their information in front of them and the agenda as far as what we'll be looking at? Okay. All right, we're going to start on page 1, and we're going to start with the county executive, and we'll be voting on each one by department. All right. The county executive, his budget was passed without change.
Ask if there's any questions or comments.
I'm giving you this stuff. What's here in front of us?
I'm just making sure.
Right, right. And so if there are any questions, of course, we're going to be recognizing any questions that you may have. If there are no questions, then we'll move on and we'll take a vote.
What do you mean by it was passed?
We
Oh.
accept it.
We accept it and then we're going to vote on it.
Yes,
So it wasn't passed.
It's actually a recommendation to
Yes.
pass without
Yes.
change.
yes,
Gotcha. Thank you.
okay. It's a recommendation to pass this without change.
Thank you.
All right, that's what it is. All right, so all those in, I need a motion.
Got a motion.
Second.
Motion to adopt without change.
Okay, motion to adopt the county executive department. I got a motion from,
Me, Lynn.
oh, from Lynn, I'm sorry, and I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, well, now we're going to move on to audit and control. And this is also a recommendation to pass without change. Any questions?
Motion to move.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Joyce. I have a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We'll move on now to the county clerk and hall of records. And this also is a recommendation to pass without change. Any questions? If not, can I get a
Motion to move.
I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien. I got a second from Ray Joyce. Or any, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. We'll now move on to the district attorney. And we're looking at three salary adjustments and an adjustment to miscellaneous equipment. Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Bergdorf.
I just want to make sure that I understand. These are actually a reconciliation of actions that we took between when the budget came on October 12th and tonight. So this isn't really new. This is just catching the budget up with salary adjustments that we previously made. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Bergdorf. That is
I'd
correct.
like to move the motion.
All
Second.
right. Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Bergdorf and I have a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. All right. All right. The next department is the Sheriff Department and recommendation to pass without change. Any questions?
Motion, Madam.
I got a motion from, a motion, is there a question?
No, it's a second.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Peter and I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Unanimous. Okay. Now we'll move on to the probation department. And we have a recommendation to pass without change. Is that a motion from you, Mr. O'Brien?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and I have a second from
second
Mr.
it.
Mayo.
Yes.
So I got a motion from Mr. O'Brien. I got a second from Mr. Mayo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay. All right, we'll now move on to the public defender. This is also a recommendation to pass without change.
No questions, I make a motion.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion from Ms. Lakakis and I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We'll now move on to the alternate public defender. There's a recommendation to pass without change. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Grimm?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, as I expressed some reservations during the budget hearings, the alternate public defender, there's substantial raises here, one 38%, four others 18%. Now, the rationale, a couple of rationale here, I understand it's state money, but when my constituents stop paying state taxes, I'll stop worrying about how we spend state money. But more than that, under the guise of pay equity to me is that our employees are treated fairly in terms of compensation across the entire county employment. And I don't think that's the case with these big raises. We have a circumstance now where a nursing assistant at the nursing home making 30 grand comes in and may catch COVID when they go to work and they get 2% raises. And the health department, what they've been through this year. Here, these raises are substantial. They're for attorneys. In one case, attorneys already make it 73 grand, getting substantial increases. I don't think they're appropriate, and I don't think this is my idea of pay equity, and I'm opposed.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Chair recognizes Mr. Peter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I understand Mr. Grimm's concerns. However, when I think pay equity, I also think of if an attorney in one department is making $85,000 and an department had not been reorganized and making significantly less, and there's significant turnover in that department because of it, there is a concern when we talk about that. It's not pay equity where everyone has to make the same, but that in order for the county to retain employees that are being often poached by the higher paying state and things of that nature, we must make sure that our salaries are reasonable and consistent with the expertise they bring to the table. In addition, I believe not only is this grant funding, but some of the funding is to put forward to an individual who will decrease our use of outside legal counsel, and therefore we will be using grant funding, which must be used to be spent, while at the same time decreasing our outside counsel line. So while I understand your point, for me, it's more about making sure that attorneys across the board, based on experience from a department or department, are paid equitably based on their experience, that we're using grant funding properly and to lower our total costs. And while I understand that all money is, whether state, federal, it comes from taxes, we've gotten this money, we need to spend it, and we should be spending it to make sure that department functions correctly. So I'm in favor of this, and with all due respect, Madam Chair, I just want to bring that to everyone's attention.
Madam Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Peter. Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, if I may rebut.
Mhm.
The pay equity issue was created last year when we gave big raises to the public defender's office, which I opposed. And one reason why I opposed them, that it would start this arms race. And sure enough, the following year, the alternate public defenders want big raises too. So this is our own doing, which should never have taken place in the first place. And that still doesn't speak to the general question about all the other employees across the county who are not getting 38% pay raises. Doesn't even speak to that. So I think this is just not right. I respect Mr. Peter and other points of view, but I feel strongly about this, and I hope we do not approve it tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Peter?
Just a quick follow-up. When I worked for the city of Albany, we couldn't afford to pay our attorneys as much as the state and even the county. And consistently, that turnover would cost us more and more in whether it was backfill costs and outside counsel costs and expertise costs. And those costs can't always be tangible. And I think that's why they gave the raises to the public defenders, to make sure that we could keep some staff consistently. Again, I understand your points, Mr. Grimm, and I appreciate the recognition of my points as well. But that's just something I always think of, is this reasonable when considering what others are making in the field, so that we can, again, keep key employees in key places.
Just one more, if I might, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Hold one moment, Mr. Grimm.
Okay.
Can I please allow Mr. O'Brien and then Mr. Bergdorf to speak, okay?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Madam Chair, I was just going to make a motion to move this. That's
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bergdorf.
I'm going to support this measure, but I'm going to do so and hope that this is, as Mark said, the end of the arms race, if you will, for pay equity for lawyers. We started with the district attorney. We then went to the Department of to the public defender. We then went to the Department of Law, and now we're at the alternate public defender. I hope, I really hope that we will not be faced with another similar situation where we're going to lose legal staff unless we dramatically increase their salaries. I am going to support this tonight, and I hope it's the last piece that I have to support in this term. So with that, Madam Chairman, I just wanted to tell you where I stand.
Madam Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Bergdorf. Ms. McLaughlin.
Okay.
I'm just trying to give everybody a chance.
Yeah, no, that's great. I appreciate that. Yeah.
I would just hope that I'm going to support this. But I would just hope that when I look at this, I've seen cases where there've been lawsuits because of what I think it was Mr. Peter had alluded to, that lawyers within the same organization not getting paid equitably. And that we don't want to go down that rabbit hole with this kind of thing. But I do hope that there's some remedy to this, as some of the others have said, so that we don't continue to deal with this issue every time there's, particularly for just this one title. So it could happen with other titles as well. So let's pay attention to how people are paid across the board in various titles, rather than just zoning in on this one, because it could happen elsewhere. Thank you so much for giving me this time.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. Mr. Grimm?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate your patience. I said this before, some of the new members may have not heard it. There's been a ton of research on how we retain employees. And the research is very clear. In 25% of the cases, only 25% is salary a principal reason why people move on. They're satisfied in their job. The things that they concern most about are what kind of boss do they have? Do they get along with their coworkers? Do they feel their work is valuable? Do they feel there's room for improvement? So this idea that we have to pay more people to keep them, I reject, and it's inconsistent with all the research that's been done. What's unequitable about this is we somehow think lawyers deserve some special place in our pay scale. That's, it's out of balance with people that are really working hard, like the nursing assistants and the health department. And I've had my say. I really feel this is not the right thing to do, but I appreciate everybody's point of view and your patience. I appreciate, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Peter?
I would just like to second Mr. O'Brien's motion if we have finished discussion on this, not to cut anyone off, but.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want everyone to remember that these are grant dollars. And this is something that has been an issue for many years. And a lot of people in certain communities believe the fact that we may lose really great attorneys as, for a public defender in a public defender status. So it's a public defender, it's an alternate public defender, and everyone deserves the best defense that they can have. And so the county would always love to have people that are the most experienced and, are of a great caliber too. So I'm going to accept the motion from Mr. O'Brien and the second from Mr. Peter, and now ask all those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed, Mr. Grimm. Thank you very much, everyone. Our next item of business and department that we're looking at is the Department of Law. Okay, and here we have a recommendation to adopt without change.
Motion, Madam Chair, if no question, discussion.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Peter. I couldn't tell who the second came from.
That's Bill Klein.
Oh, motion and a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, now we are off on to our next item is management and budget. And we have one legislative adjustment here, and let me see, where are we? Oh, yes, here's on page 2.
Distribution of sale taxes.
Okay, distribution to municipalities. Any questions?
Motion.
Second.
Okay. I got a motion from Mr. Clay and I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to social services. We have just one increase here for a position and management and budget requests. Any questions? All those in, can I get
I'll make a motion.
Motion.
I
Or
got
second.
Second.
Excuse me. Sorry, I had to sneeze.
Bless you, Madam Chair.
If that's COVID, I'm not forgiving anybody.
Yeah, go
Who made the motion?
I did.
I got a second for you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Lakakis and a second by Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you so much. Our next item of business is the department, is the nursing home. And we have a recommendation to adopt without change.
Motion.
I got a motion from Mr. Clay.
Second.
I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, we're now working on the Department of Health. I have a recommendation to adopt without change.
Motion, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Bergdorf?
Yes, Mike, in your description of this program where we talked about having crisis social worker intervention, you talked about them as responding with the county sheriff. Now, I would like some clarification if this is
Mr.
just a
Bergdorf, Mike spoke on mental health.
Well, this is mental health, ma'am.
No, we're on health.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. I apologize.
No problem, Mr. Bergdorf.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Peter?
in recognizing that Mr. Bergdorf's question is for the next one, can I make a motion to approve health?
I got a motion from Mr. Peter.
Second.
I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Unanimous. Who's that? Right. Somebody wants to speak?
Okay. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay. All right. We'll move on now to mental health. Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry I jumped the gun.
That's okay. And I'm going to recognize Mr. Bergdorf.
Mike, when he went through his synopsis, he talked about crisis intervention teams in the context of the sheriff. Is this a countywide program? Is this going to happen in the town of Colony, in the town of Guilderland? Is it going to happen in the city of Albany with the city of Albany police? Or is this just limited to participation with the Albany County Sheriff?
Hey, Madam Chair, this is Andrew. If I could jump in real quick.
The Chairman Joyce?
Hey, Mr. Bergdorf, no, it's not countywide. I think the intent in concept is to start in one part of the county, a small part of the county, potentially Ravenna, Queens, Selkirk area, to kind of get a sense of how things are being applied. And as we prove the concept, move across the county to places like Colony and Albany, Waterville, Cohoes, and hopefully we get buy-in with municipalities and the police departments in those municipalities and go forward from there. But the initial idea is to start in a place like Queens and kind of go from there.
We're working a lot of these items out. This is something we're working on with a few different partners here.
Okay, now are these staff social workers going to be stationed down in the southern end of the county?
These are details we're going to need to work out in the policy development phase of this, which is still, we're still working it. We're talking mid-December when we start, roll out, talking about how we implement at this point of discussion.
Yeah, at this point, it's certainly it's an extension of the mobile crisis unit for this for this purpose.
But basically just in the southern end of the county as a pilot program.
We're working out those details. Yeah.
Yes. Chair recognizes Mr. Peter and then Mr. Ward.
No, I just you know, in years past, we've talked about the importance of mobile crisis during pandemics, especially as it, you know, often it's hard for people to travel to get treatment, and those crises can happen at any time. And, you know, Dr. Giordano always does such a good job explaining it, but there's only so many folks that can go around in shifts. And I think, you know, in the ongoing conversations of how we make sure that mental health is deliverable during times of crisis, expanding mobile crisis to give it as much flexibility as possible. I'm always supportive of, and I was last year, and I think it's a great program, and I'm supportive of any expansion of mobile crisis going into our communities and being able to help during times of mental health crisis. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. Mr. Ward.
I think Mr. Peter stole my speech. I'm all in favor of the expansion.
I'm sorry, Mr. Ward.
That's all right. It was well done. It's almost like I wrote it for you, Mr. Peter. It was, you know, I think we definitely need to expand in this area. We're seeing increased need for it all over the county. And I have no objection to starting with a pilot program in a specific area, but I'd like to see this future expansion of this program. Our police and fire departments are calling for them all the time. And it's needed all over the place. And I think it's a step in the right direction here, but it's something we have to look at, I think, for expansion in the near future. Thank you.
If there's no other questions, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Second motion.
Okay. What I would like to say is we looked at the numbers, and what we did realize is that the city, I have to say, the city of Albany is pretty well covered by the mobile crisis unit. That's the one thing we did recognize, and really a lot of other places. And from the numbers that they provided, we did notice that the hill towns were I don't want to say not being reflected in those numbers. They were, but not to the extent that the other areas in the county. Also, we realized that the pandemic has caused, you know, an increase in the issues that people do have right now. And one of the issues that was raised during Mr. Giordano's presentation was that he could use more help. And so we're just simply answering the call to a need that we know Albany County has right now. Mr. Ward, did I not put your hand?
No, I just want to add, I agree with that. I think that the coverage is there. However, I think sometimes, and I monitor police and fire calls all day, there's a lot of times where they have to wait a great length of time to get someone deployed up to, you know, the northern end of the county, is what I usually hear. So, you know, the service is always great and it's available, but the amount of time sometimes is, there's a lot of time, and time is of the essence when you have somebody that's in crisis. So I think, you know, the need to look at, again, I echo the comments that were already made. I think it's a step in the right direction. We have a pilot program we're going to start, but it may need to be expanded. I just want to, you know, that's my personal opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And I want to thank everyone for their comments on this. And I think this is a demonstration of how we're being responsive to the needs of the people of Albany County. So I'm going to recognize the motion by Mr. Peter and the second by Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right. We're now going to move on to crime victims. And we're looking to adopt this without change.
Motion.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Clay. I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, thank you. We're now going on to the Department of Aging. We just have a management and budget request, and it's for fees for services. Question?
Make a motion? No. you
Second.
said-
I got a motion from, I couldn't tell. Oh,
Lynn?
yep, I thought that was Lynn. I got a motion from Ms. Lakakis, and I have a second from
Madam Chair.
Peter. I couldn't tell. You're gonna have to put your hand up, or something. There's like 5 or 6 going off at the same time. I'm sorry. So a motion from Ms. Lakakis, a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We're now moving on to Human Resources and Civil Service. There's a recommendation to adopt without change. All those in, excuse me.
Motion, Madam Chair.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Peter, and I have a
Second.
second. I have a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously.
Wanda, did you miss the Veterans Bureau? Or did I miss it?
I didn't hear it either.
That's because I didn't say it.
Okay.
So we just finished Human Resources and Civil Service, and now we would entertain the Veterans Bureau. All right.
Motion?
I got a motion from
Second.
Mr. Grimm. I got a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We are now on to children, youth, and families, and we're looking at fees for services, and we're looking for a recommendation here. Pass this.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I got a
Second.
motion from Mr. Bergdorf. I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we'll now move on to water purification. We have recommendation to adopt without change.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion from Ms. Lakakis. I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We're now on to Public Works. We have a recommendation to adopt without change.
Motion?
I got a motion from Mr. Grimm.
Second.
I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous. That was Public Works. We're now on to General Services. We have a recommendation to adopt without change. Motion? Motion from Mr. Grimm. A second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. We're now on to the Board of Elections. We have salary adjustments and benefit changes here in relation to that. Questions?
Madam Chairwoman, I'd just like to point out, or I'm of the belief that this is like the previous set of raises, that these were adopted between when the budget was submitted and today, and is simply reconciling the 2021 budget with late action in 2020. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Bergdorf.
I would like to move the motion.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Bergdorf.
Second?
I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We will now move on to the Economic Development, Conservation, and Planning. We have fees for services here, legislative adjustment.
Yeah, I question, Madam.
Who is Mr. Grimm?
Yeah, can someone explain? I'm not clear what this 100,000 is.
This is the CERT extension.
Okay, he can't hear you. Hold on.
I don't believe I'll have a,
Okay,
have an echo here.
I'm sorry.
Do you have an echo?
Okay, can you hear me now?
We got you.
Okay.
You're muted. Oh, I'm muted.
Okay, this $100,000 is being put over in the Department of Economic Development related to CERT extension, which are related to the COVID Economic Recovery Task Force findings, and provides resources for additional assistance to small businesses that may be needed during the 2021 fiscal year.
I'm not clear. I thought that was 300,000.
I can't hear him. Nobody's speaking. Mr. Grimm, can you just repeat what you just said, sir?
Yeah, I thought there was 300,000 for the.
Yeah, that is correct. Within the current year, there's $300 being $300,000 being allocated, excuse me, towards the provision of small business grants. This is in addition to that amount.
Okay, so we're spending 100 grand more. This one's in the 2021 budget. The 300's in the 2020 budget.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Was that, oh,
Sorry.
Mr. Peter?
sorry about that. If there's no further questions, I'd like to make a motion.
I second it.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Peter, and I have a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you.
And the money that took.
We're now on to the coroners. And we have recommendation to make these changes that you see here, of management and budget requests. Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion to move it.
Second.
I got a motion from Ms. Lakakis. I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. All right. We are now on to the Recreation Department, and we have a recommendation to adopt without change.
Motion.
I
Second.
got a motion from Mr. Clay. I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Unanimous. Okay. Did I call for opposed? No, okay, opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we're now on to Cornell Cooperative Extension. We have here, is this the association dues?
It's related to the 2% adjustment, management budget request.
Okay, and this is a change from the management and budget request. Any questions? If not, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion from Ms. Lakakis. I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we now have the Civic Center, and we have a recommendation to adopt without change.
Motion.
I got a motion from Mr. Grimm.
Second.
I got a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Aye.
Okay, we are now on to soil and water conservation. We have a recommendation to adopt without change.
Motion.
Got a motion from Mr. Grimm.
Second.
I got a second from Mr. Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. We are now on to stormwater, and we have two management and budget requests.
All
Motion.
right. Motion.
I got a
Second.
motion from Mr. Clay and a second from Ms. Lakakis. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous. We are now on to the legislature. We have salary adjustments and legislative adjustments.
Motion, Madam Chair?
All right. I got a motion from Mr. Peter.
Second.
Madam Chair, I did raise my hand.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Bergdorf. I didn't see your hand up.
That's okay. I just have a question on the 425,000 for the community development, public health and safety. While I recognize that there was a memo that went out on that yesterday, it's my intention to support this based on the that the chairman said that there would be a transparent process that legislators would see, and that legislators would be able to have input into. So I just would like to make sure that there is some opportunity, like there was with some requests for proposals for not-for-profits, so that if there is someone in Colony, if there is someone in Guilderland who has a proposal, has an opportunity for a fair chance to compete for some of this funding.
Hey, Madam Chair, this is Andrew.
Yes, Mr. Joyce.
Yes. I want to make it clear, just to kind of do a little bit of background. Initially, we had set aside $225,000 for 2020, but then the pandemic hit, and the question came up is how we, equitably and fairly and transparently deploy these resources in the county if we can. This is not a grant program. This is not an award program. The first step was finding the money to fund some of these ideas. The second step we're going to approve it. And then the third step is how do we, as Mr. Bergdorf had mentioned, and as I'd expressed to leadership before, how do we do so when we identify some of these initiatives? How do we do it in a public and transparent way through the legislature? I'm thinking initially, and we'll work this out amongst our members and the staff and leadership. I'm thinking something that kind of resembles a budget amendment process, or the RFP or the RFQ process. But this is not a grant program. We'll take it on a case-by-case basis, and I hope we can kind of focus on public health and public safety initiatives in 2021 as we see our way through the pandemic, and it's countywide. That's kind of the intent, but we will work this as we go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Mr. Bergdorf.
Madam Chair?
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I appreciate what Chairman Joyce had said, public and transparent. We're certainly looking forward to that. And having the minority conference involved, obviously, and having a really clear set of criteria of how people get this money. It's $425,000 is a big pot. And I just think it's important that everybody's clear about how you get this money and how this money is passed along. And I think public and transparent are exactly the right chord to note. And I appreciate the chairman. Thank you.
One thing I would like to just to note and be on the record for: someone comes to us with an idea for $300,000, they are not going to get $300,000. It's equitable and it's equal, and it's supposed to be a countywide, year-long effort that we're going to make here. I just wanted to make that clear as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I had a motion.
Okay, thank you. Mr. O'Brien, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I'd like to second Matthew Peters' motion.
Okay, all right, thank you. I got a motion from Mr. Peter, and I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we're now going to move on to the contingent account. And we have a legislative adjustment of $200,000. 100,000 is for the BOE upgrades. And then the other 100,000 is for unexpected expenses. Do you have any other questions?
Hey, Madam Chair, this is Andrew.
Chairman?
I would like to, I'd like to note that the intent for the $100,000 for the Board of Elections would be for, it's not for people, it's for equipment and for any other upgrades that need to happen at the Board of Elections.
Thank you, Chairman. Did someone have a question?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Mr. Bergdorf.
I just, and I'm going to support this as well. I just want people to realize that this $200,000 add is on top of $200,000 that the county executive put back into the contingent account. So there's a total of $400,000, of which $100,000 would be allocated to the BOE. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Like to make a motion, Madam Chair?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Peter. I got a second from Mr. O'Brien. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. All right.
Revenues.
Okay, now we're on to
Revenue.
all right, so we're on to the revenues now. We have 3 legislative adjustments. You can see that we're talking about sales and use tax, mortgage, recording fees, the medical marijuana aid, and then there's management and budget, 2 management and budget requests.
Motion?
Madam Chair,
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Bergdorf.
I just want to go back to what Fred had said initially about the columns. Is this the one where the columns are inverted?
Yes.
Okay, so what we're actually saying is we think we're going to get $300,000 more in sales tax, $300,000 more in recording tax, and $20,000 more in medical marijuana aid. So that, in essence, will offset the budget increases.
That's correct.
That's correct. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion if there's
I'm going to
no.
recognize Mr. Ford.
Yes, Mr. Bergdorf, that is exactly right. Because of that particular relationship, it's represented that way, but every statement you made is exactly right.
Thank you, Eric, and I'm sorry, I apologize for.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Oh, we're back. Is there?
Madam Chair?
It's gone. Mr. Peter?
If there's no other questions, I'd like to make a motion on this, Madam Chair.
Second motion.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion from Mr. Peter and I got a second from Mr. Clay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Unanimous.
Hold on a second.
Okay, hold on one moment. Well, we have now completed our task for this evening, and the next step is on November the 24th. We'll have the public hearing, and all of these recommendations and additions and deletions, this is what we're moving out for the public's review. The next time, after the public hearing, we have November 30th. We'll adopt on November 30th the audit and finance adoption of the legislative additions and deletions. And then we'll be passing the budget on December 7th, the full legislative body. Mr. O'Brien.
Before we adjourn, Madam Chair, I just want to recognize you, and you did a wonderful job under these circumstances this year. It's unbelievable. You did a great job, and thank you very much.
Oh,
Here, here.
Madam Chair, I'd like to
echo-
second that and also compliment you and your leadership of staff and everyone else who's helped. So I would like to second Mr. O'Brien's motion and sentiments.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to third that. This Carol.
I echo the comments. Very good.
Thank you. I would just like to say that staff has worked very hard. They've been at this for months now, and it couldn't have been done without Mr. Ford, our budget analyst, and all of the staff. And so Mike worked really hard. Mike Morris worked really hard on this. And we do have staff that we can be proud of, the legislature can be proud of. So I just want to reiterate that we could not do it without them. They did an excellent job in trying to move as much information as they could ahead of time out to the members. And I will have to recognize you, Mr. Bergdorf, that when we requested information or questions from the members, you did just that. And it really helps things go a lot more smoothly. I do have to admit that. So I got to give you kudos for that.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair.
Wanda.
So thank you so much.
You
And
go.
if there are no other questions or anything, I'll recognize that motion to adjourn.
Second it.
So moved.
Thank you,
All
Madam
right.
Chairwoman.
I got a motion from Mr. Grimm. I got a second from Mr. Lukakis. And thank you. Good evening. Everybody go home to your kids,
Happy
your family, and have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.